SMU. Some of my hobbies include I like to read science fiction, I like to write, I like to paint, and I like to go hiking. I'm here today to talk to you about my personal experience with and recovery from severe depression. Depression for me occurred all throughout high school and college. It's something that runs in my family, it's a genetic thing, and it's something I've struggled with since I was about 14 years old. When I was feeling depressed, I felt really hopeless, and I felt like I was just kind of stuck. And I thought about suicide often, and I just wanted to stop existing, pretty much. So while I was depressed, I fixated on past mistakes, past failures, things I said in the past that I regretted. I would constantly criticize myself, and I would set this very unrealistic standard of perfection for myself. For instance, I would tell myself that I needed to make A+ in all my classes, and if I didn't meet that standard, then I was worthless. So I found myself really feeling kind of stuck in this cycle of negative thought and negative behavior. And I couldn't, in that frame of mind, I couldn't let go. I couldn't just enjoy life, and I couldn't form healthy relationships with other people. So in an effort to deal with all of this, I just told myself to man up, just cope. There are other people that are going through far worse, I'm sure. Just deal with it, just man up. And I felt like the only way I could really be accepted in the world was by hiding my depression from other people. I thought that I had to hide it because people just wouldn't understand. They're not going to understand where I'm coming from, what I'm feeling. And also I had a lot of pride. I wanted to give the appearance that I was perfect to everybody and that I wasn't struggling with anything. And lastly, I just felt like I wouldn't have a place to belong in the world if I was open and honest about my depression. But honestly, these were all just excuses that I used to avoid confronting the depression that I did have. And the real truth was that I was terrified. I was afraid. I was very afraid. I was afraid of admitting that I was depressed, and I was afraid of facing that truth. So eventually my depression became too much for me to bear. My grades were suffering. I was sleeping most of the time. I had absolutely no energy, physical or mental. And I told myself I couldn't keep living like this. So I realized that I had to face my fear, and I had to confront this head on. And also, I wanted to have healthier relationships, meaningful relationships in my life. I felt I had a right to have that. So I realized that the only way I could really overcome my depression is by accepting personal responsibility for it, through just making better choices in my life. So I started being more open and honest about my depression with my friends and my family eventually. And I can remember the first time I decided I was going to speak to my friends about it. I drove over to my friend's house, and I was sitting in my car outside of his house, completely drenched in sweat. My heart was just pounding. I was extremely nervous. I didn't know what was going to happen. But eventually I walked into his house and socialized with my friends for a bit. And there was a little bit of small talk initially. Eventually, like jumping into a cold pool, I just looked them all in the eye, and I told them exactly how I was feeling. I was honest and sincere, spoke from my heart. And not all of my friends were receptive to it. In fact, most of them felt very uncomfortable and very awkward, and they didn't make eye contact. However, one of my friends actually was very receptive to it, and he came to me afterwards and almost teary-eyed, which I was shocked to see him teary-eyed if you knew who this person was. Very overtly masculine type character. But he was just teary-eyed, and he thanked me for speaking up. And he said that he really resonated with a lot of what I was saying, and he said he felt he was also struggling with depression. From that experience, I felt more motivated, and I felt like, it's hard to describe the feeling. I felt like I actually for that moment, I overcame my depression. Is that an omen of something? But that motivation led me to seek the help of a counselor who helped me confront my depression even more. And as I became more open and honest about my depression, I discovered that some of the people in my daily life, like some people I trusted, like coworkers and some neighbors I had, and even some family members, also were struggling with some mental health condition or depression or something. And some of them, even just like my friend, came to me afterwards and thanked me for being open and honest about it. So it was really, to me, it was really an amazing revelation, that just making that initial choice to face my fear and speak up about my depression really kind of started a chain reaction that led to who I am today. Today, I have more control over myself, and I've slowly broke apart the depression, so it's not nearly as severe as it used to be. And I discovered that some of the negative thoughts I was thinking, like, I'm not good enough, or I'm going to suffer from depression forever, or, I don't deserve to be who I really am, people won't understand, these type of thoughts that I had just like all the time, they were more easily replaced with thoughts that I deserve to be who I am, I'm not my depression. I have a right to be happy, and I have a right to be authentic. And I also realized that by accepting the responsibility, by speaking up about my depression, by actively reaching out to my counselors or family members or NAMI volunteers, so many other different people, I had so much to gain and absolutely nothing to fear. The worst case scenario is I felt awkward or uncomfortable initially from revealing information that I used to hide within myself. So again, my life now, at this point in my life, my depression is virtually gone. I no longer feel consumed by negative thinking, and although there are negative thoughts that pop up every now and again, like I said, they're less intense, and it's easier for me to separate myself from those thoughts and see, okay, that's not who I am, that's just like this cycle that I had in my head that I was struggling with. Which a year ago at this time, I would have never imagined that I could be here. Never imagined that this is even possible, and yet it is. And really the most important thing was that I achieved my original goal, which is to have more fulfilling relationships, to have more fulfilling friendships. The friendships I have in my life now are based in honesty and authenticity and speaking from my heart, and they understand, like, oh yeah, you have a right to do this, and it's not based on some superficial similarity or anything like that. Or it's not based out of some just, you make me feel comfortable because you believe X, Y, and Z. So that's my story, and I want to thank all of you for listening.